And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. Tuesday, September 14th. We are here. And we have more than 4 games today, which is what we got out of yesterday. But now we are back breaking down 10 games. Is that what it is? My math shit? 10 games. 10 games. Starting at 7:05. A couple 6 o'clock games. We got a day game as well, maybe. So we'll see how that looks. But for today, unfortunately, we're back in cores. Cardinals looking like the top stack. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. But we're going to break it all down. We're going to take our time. We're having some data issues on the back end. I have my projections ready to go. When I get a notification that the projections on Stochastic, both ownership and raw projections, are up, then we could run my sims and take a look at everything. But for now, we're going to kick that to later in the show, so that we can break down each spot first, and then we'll hash out some individual lineups in the single lineup sim. You guys know I'm the czar of building lineups in the single game sim. No one better. And you will get to see that at 9:30. Yes, couldn't remember what time it was. Alan Hutchinson. If we knew how would we know that? Okay, I see Steven responded before that. Do you cover sleeper picks? Asking for a friend. Alan, I will be covering sleeper picks at noon on our Odd Shopper YouTube channel. I go live at 12 every day, hitting the pick'em sites and sports books. This is going to be strictly DraftKings DFS. But glad you're here. But yeah, come. Stick around for this one. But yeah, at noon Eastern time, we will use the Odd Shopper portfolio EV tool to try and find all the best plays we can, not just sleeper, prize picks, underdog, dabble, better, pick six. I hit them all. And if you head to oddshopper.com right now and browse to the tails section, that's our expert picks forum where you can subscribe to individuals and take a look at the free feed. I posted a couple prize picks cards and an underdog card on the free feed about a half hour ago. So that costs you nothing. I mean, you can subscribe to me or some others if you'd like, but you could head on over to oddshopper.com, go to tails, and you could find some free picks for prize picks and underdog if that is interesting to you guys. Kepanekla, thanks for talking up the Giants yesterday. Stacked them in Boston, took third in single entry. That's what I like to hear. Kepanekla, I'm going to assume that there weren't 5,000 entries in that single entry contest since it's a 4-game baseball slate. But on the off chance that there were, and you have the Stochastic avatar, submit that bad boy to the Hall of Fame. If you finish third in a contest with 5,000 or more, you can get yourself some free stuff. So I'm going to take a sip of this coffee. I've revolutionized my coffee game. So I talk a lot about coffee. I drink a lot of coffee on these shows. I finally have cornered the market on favorite coffee. And I'm excited for when the weather gets a little cooler. I'm in North Carolina. It's September. It's still pretty hot during the day. You know, we're getting into the 80s. But when we cool off, I now have Chobani cookie dough creamer. Put a little bit of that in there. And then sugar-free cookie dough syrup. So this just tastes like a liquid chocolate chip cookie. When that gets hot, oh my God, it's going to taste like hot liquid cookie dough. Can't wait. I am a coffee connoisseur. I think that's in my Twitter bio. Follow me at Josh Engleman, by the way. All right, let's break it down. You know where we have to start. There's no choice. We got to go to the team that is unequivocally the number one team on today's slate, and that is going to be the St. Louis Cardinals. Biggest run total of anybody on the slate, and it's not close. Next closest team outside of Coors is the Twins. 9/10 of a run below. Friend of the program, Peter Viles in the house. Bro, if you look at the top of contests regularly. Wow, I thought you'd be a fellow black coffee guy. It's not that I'm not. I don't need creamer or flavor or whatever. You give me an actual good cup of black coffee, I'm in. That's totally cool with me. But when I'm starting the day, I kind of like getting out in front of it with a treat for myself, but not a treat that's like aggressively bad for me. It's not it's not like a McGriddle or something. So a little bit of cream. I probably do a little bit too much of the cookie dough creamer, but it's like a tablespoon. And then the sugar-free syrup is unassailable when you find the one you want. But yeah, I don't mind black coffee at all. I love coffee in general, but I am a little bit becoming my mom because my mom would drink creamer with a splash of coffee in lieu of me who drinks coffee with a splash of creamer. But coffee's just delicious. It really is. And it is the only thing that gets me through an NBA season, because once we get to like late January, early February, or maybe even like late February, post All-Star break, if it wasn't for coffee, I don't think I'd make it. All right, back to the Cardinals. Number 1 in my top stack. Number 3 in top value. This is going to be the team most owned. Someone like Alec Burleson is probably one of the better plays you're going to find today. $4,600 outfielder, likely hitting in the 2-hole, lefty, righty. All of it looks good. All of it looks good. But it's not just Burleson. Like even the righties against Feltner, Mason Wynn, Goldschmidt, Arenado, and then, whether you want Donovan or Nootbaar, probably Nootbaar. But here's why the Cardinals are even better than it seems. Because one, like they have the highest run total. They're playing in course. Like everybody gets that point of it all. First 5 hitters in the Cardinals lineup: shortstop, outfield, first, third, second outfield MPE. This team couldn't be easier to stack. It just couldn't. Ice through. I blew it on that last minute change last night. Stacked the pitchers for Houston and Seattle game with Boston and San Francisco. Then changed from Arizona to San Francisco prior to their game. Cost me a few $100s. Had Chapman in it. Oof. Ice through. That's rough. All right. So as I see the Cardinals, I mean, anything in the top 6 is awesome. It does fall off there. You can see my implied ownership is 10% or higher for the first 6 guys. It drops to 6% for Jordan Walker. So you're probably not grabbing a lot of Walker, Pages, Siani. It will always be Pages, by the way. But you could work Pages in if you want to grab the catcher. But the first 6 dudes are just so easy to roster here. And that's going to become a problem. And I think that's going to be why the Cardinals are just aggressively owned. I'd be surprised if I end up over the field on the Cardinals. My assumption here is that I end up around the field to a little bit light, and they're just filler for a lot of my lineups. Actually, if I can... Let me change this formula quickly. If this equals 0, then... I want to see my implied ownership in the spot that regular ownership would normally show up. So that's going to be team implied. I don't think this is going to work, but it might. Hey-oh, it did. It did. So just to double check. Yeah, Bailey Ober is aggressively owned. Like it. Probably too aggressively owned, but we'll cross that bridge in the future. Actually, I know why that's happening. Let's pull that down. There we go. That should look a little bit better. Yeah, basically the same. Andrew Martinez. Josh, on this kind of slate, what is a percentage you'd be looking for when you run the single lineup sim? Depends. Every slate is going to be different. The construction of the slate is probably going to change what's available at the top. But, like I'm always shooting for like 40 plus is a goal. But every slate is going to be a little bit context dependent. All right. We've touched on the Cardinals. We have to touch on the Rockies as well. Number 2 stack overall, about a half run higher than the Twins for run total. I mean, really easy to stack. Although, hold on. Okay, yeah. I thought I misread something yesterday. So Rockies, first 5 guys in the Rockies lineup. Outfield, short, third, first, second base. The game stack here is going to be awesome and probably popular. Now, the Rockies aren't going to be as owned because they're shit. Probably the second worst offense on today's slate behind the White Sox. Although Michael McGreevy on the opposite side, not somebody you're going to be really nervous about. I bet his under in strikeouts if you want to join me there. But I mean, those first 5 guys, you're hitting all of the key positions. It's so easy to find outfielders elsewhere. To be able to hit a lot of your position players in your stack is just something that I like to do because filling out outfield is way easier. You just have so much upside from both of these teams. Now, reminder, there's always the faux, team in the first game in Coors is always awful gimmick. So be aware of that, I guess. But as I see it, I want to have a decent chunk of exposure to the Rockies and the Cardinals because this game is the best offensive environment on today's slate, and it's not even remotely close. So if we're talking about individual bats, the guy I like the more isn't the guy I like the more. I can't even believe that came out of my mouth. The guy I like the most, that's the way you say that, is the guy that's going to retire at the end of the season. Charlie Blackmon, 4,800 outfielder in the leadoff spot, lefty-righty against McGreevy. Highest implied ownership of anybody on the Rockies. The funny part there is Blackmon's implied ownership is the same as Lars Nootbaar is in the 6 hole for the Cardinals. That's how much different, one, talent is, but 2, the fact that you're playing on the road. Nootbaar in the 6 hole, only a half plate appearance behind Charlie Blackmon, so he can make up the talent differential. Ken, good morning. So I fully expect to have a lot of the Cardinals, and I fully expect to have a lot of... I know why this is wrong. Team should be opponent. Yeah, now it's right. I fully expect to have a lot of the Cardinals and the Rockies. I would be very surprised if I'm over the field on either one of them. The team that I think I'm most likely to be over the field on, and a lot of this will depend on how they grade out or how owned they actually are. We don't have ownership yet, but as I look at the Red Sox today against Bowden Francis is going to be pulling some ownership, it seems. Probably something in that 15% range is my guess. It will matter once we get that information in, but I have the Red Sox with a 5% top stack odds. That's middle of the pack. But with Francis getting ownership, I kind of expect them to be the team that I get to. And I'm rarely mad about getting to Boston. They're completely reasonable today. Francis has had mild issues with lefty power, 178 x ISO this year, but just an 8.5% swinging strike rate. He's having a lot of trouble missing bats against lefties. That's not going to be fun for Jarren Duran against Tristan Casas, against Yoshida, against Wilyer Abreu. And it's not like I'm worried about the righties either. Now, he mows down righties, 27% K rate this year, but still a 170 X ISO against righties. You go outfield in the leadoff spot, which is fine. You get Romy Gonzalez, second, third MPE for just 3,300, really cost effective there. And then Casas. It's the lower part of the Boston lineup that I don't love, but if you go Duran, Gonzalez, Casas, Yoshida, Abreu, yes, you're hitting every single outfield spot, but you can build out your 5-man stack with the Red Sox and use those outfielders, and then very, very easily use the pieces from the Cardinals and Rockies game, because they have all of the ability to hit those infield spots. I expect the first lineup we build in the sim tool to be a Red Sox 5-man with filler from either the Rockies or Cardinals. That is my guess for the team I get to the most. The Yankees really aren't getting enough ownership coming into Dean Kramer. Maybe the Giants today against Brandon Pfaadt because he's getting a little bit of love. The Dodgers and Padres will be an interesting discussion. But as I see it right now, and I'm just guessing, I don't have sim results. I'm not even close to sim results right now. This is just off the top of my head. Usually the best thoughts come right off the top of my head. The Boston Red Sox look pretty sneaky to me. So chat, here's what I want to know from you guys. Who are you looking at? Are there any teams you want me to take a look on and dig into? Because we've got some time to break it all down. Seriously, I feel like I just drank a liquefied, smooth Chips Ahoy. Jason Gordon, Padres, please. Okay. So they're not a team ooh, that's a second Padres from Jake. They're not a team that I expect to get, but I also wouldn't be surprised if I do. I have the Padres 4th in top stack, tied for 9th in value. Landon Knack is going for the Dodgers. Knack has had a knack. I'm going to make that joke every 5 days. Has had a knack for giving up power to righties. 216 x ISO to righties this year. Hasn't been much better to lefties. Knack also can't get a swinging strike to save his life against righties. So as I look at it, Fernando Tatis, by far the best option you can get to from the Pods. Machado looks good. I think Jackson Merrill looks pretty good at 4,300. Arise and Profar not grading out as well as I would have liked them to. It's less about the Padres and more about attacking Knack. I get that. They look, like I said, I have them 4th in top stack. You throw out Coors, they're 2nd. So only other team in their range, it's the Yankees are 3rd. And then the Padres are kind of tied with the Angels and the Twins at 6%. But yeah, we know the park. The park plays up massive power, 120 park factor to lefties or righties. There's a ton of raw power on the Padres, whether that's Tatis, Profar, Machado, Merrill, Cronenworth, Higashioka. There's a lot of upside in San Diego for sure. The only downside is that Landon Knack's not pulling any ownership, or at least I don't expect him to. Ice Through said Braves. So Schwellenbach going for the Braves, Severino on the opposite side for the Mets. I have Atlanta 7th in top stack. Severino probably going to be in that 5 to 10% owned range. He really hasn't given up much power, though. He certainly doesn't give it against righties. 114 x ISO against righties. Braves are looking right now like they're rolling out 6 righties. Doesn't matter as much for someone like Ozuna, but still. And even against lefties, Severino not really getting blown up. Lefty power plays down in Atlanta. This one would surprise me because they're not cheap. They're 15th in value. I'd be surprised to get to Atlanta. That one I don't really see. Kepenekla, Twins. Okay, Twins are an interesting one. Twins are 5th in top stack, 6th in top value. I'm assuming they get a little bit of love here just because of how likely they are to win. They are the biggest favorites on today's slate by almost 10%. I have them at 68% to win. The Yankees are the next closest at 59%. So you feel really good about the Twins side there. Bailey Ober is going to be the most popular pitcher on today's slate because he's 8,600 against a shit Marlins team. So the Twins look really interesting to me. A team that I would be happy to get to. You've got Ryan Weathers on the hill for Miami. He gets blasted against righties, 196 X ISO, 194 real ISO. Does strike out a little bit more against lefties. As of right now, the Minnesota Twins lineup is projected to be 9 righties, 7 regular righties, 2 switch hitters. Most expensive person in the Twins lineup, $4,900 Carlos Correa. Those first 5, outfield short, outfield first, third, Margot, Correa, Buxton, Santana, Royce Lewis. I'd be happy to get to all of it. And if you want to swap one of those guys out, maybe you swap out Margot for Jeffers. I think the Twins are really easy to roster. I think the positionality looks good. The power potential looks good. The likelihood of putting up a bunch of runs, being the highest scoring non-Coors team, looks really good. I'm hoping they're under-owned. I don't think they will be, but I'm hoping that I can get to Minnesota. On paper, I think Minnesota looks better than anything else we've looked at. White Sox against Kakanowitz. Don't get me wrong. I get a lot of White Sox this season. Probably not the year to do that. The problem here is that Kokanowicz just isn't going to get enough ownership to want to get to Chicago. Lou Bob as a one-off for 4,100. I can get behind that. That's probably it. Too much pinch hit risk for Minnesota. Yeah, that's fair. That's a major problem in matchups against lefties. You're really betting on that work getting done early. But Jake, I don't disagree there. All right, let's take a look at the pitchers for right now. You need a big score today. I have the target at 27. So really you're looking at like 25 plus is going to be necessary to get to the top. As I see it, it's Bailey Ober by a mile. Now I am likely over projected to Bailey Ober. I tend to be a little bit higher on Bailey Ober than the industry does. But I have him lapping the field 4 fantasy points ahead of the next closest guy, which is actually Eovaldi, who's only $100 more expensive. Framber Valdez is here at 10K. Looks fine. Should be around 10% owned, but not the best spot. Logan Gilbert is in at 9,300, but the Mariners are on the road in that matchup against Valdez. I prefer Valdez to Gilbert in that matchup. You've got Michael King out there at 9,100, but I don't love that spot. Schwellenbach looks a little bit better at 8,900, but I think you can make a case that Nathan Eovaldi looks even better than him, and you save $200 more. But Schwellenbach, Eovaldi, Ober, Bowden Francis, Brandon Pfaadt, this 8K range is loaded. And I think that's where everybody's going to be. The only real 8K guy that I don't think most people are going to want to get to is Logan Webb. Not that you have a problem going there, but he's just not that kind of guy. But Schwellenbach, Eovaldi, Ober, Pfaadt, Clark Schmidt at 7,900. I kind of wish they made him 8K just to make the pricing look better, but that's the range. Look at everybody below Schmidt, 7,700 or below. I don't have anybody get to 10% implied, 8% to Severino. You can go to a little bit of Mitch Spence. I think you could probably grab a little bit of Dean Kramer. Honestly, think you could probably grab a little bit of Jonathan Cannon today, too, if you need to save the salary. But my expectation is that I have 80+% of my ownership in the 8K range. In particular, Ober by a mile. And then I'm guessing Bowden Francis, honestly, is my guy, which fits perfectly. Now, for those of you that have been watching regularly, I tend to get a lot of a team that looks good against a pitcher that's pulling ownership. And I think that's Boston, because I'm expecting Bowden Francis to be 15 to 20% owned. So I'm expecting to be 2x the field on the Red Sox and probably 2x the field on Bowden Francis, because he looks the best relative to salary. He's the second best option behind Ober. Ober's broken, but I think Bowden Francis is going to be the guy that I get to second most. But I also think that the Red Sox will be one of my most exposed stack. That's going to be my angle for today, it seems. Ice through. I appreciate you putting in that lineup. I just got a message now that our scrapers are back up, and they're hoping they can get the data up by 9:35. So we might be able to get to the single lineup sim by the end of this. Let me just respond to this message. All right. So that should be coming up shortly. I think if you're paying down, it's Mitch Spence at 6,300. I think he's going to be the guy that is easiest to get to. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So A's at home, taking on the Rangers. You have Eovaldi on the opposite side, looking like the more likely guy that people get to. But Spence has decent value metrics here, 18% to be a top 2 value pitcher today. Spence, 16% K rate against righties. That's going to be troublesome. Hopefully like Adolis Garcia makes up for it. 24% K rate to lefties, though. I kind of wish these lefties struck out more. They don't really. This isn't a team with a high strikeout rate. But Spence's stats against lefties have been a little deceiving. So if you just look at Mitch Spence's raw stats against lefties this year, he's thrown 1,100 pitches. 198 ISO, 346 WOBA. That's bad. You'd look at that and be like, oh shit, Mitch Spence stinks against lefties. He's going to get smacked here. The gap between his real stats and his expected stats is huge. So like I said, 198 ISO to lefties. His X ISO, 139. He goes from has been bombed to limits power. That's a big change. 346 WOBA against raw stats. 289 X WOBA. Mitch Spence has been fantastic against lefties. His real problem has been the slider. It's getting nuked when he throws it to lefties. He really needs to switch to the curveball more often there. He's thrown them about equal. The slider has a 209 X ISO and a 348 X WOBA. The curveball is sub 100 ISO, 213. He needs to put the slider in his pocket against lefties and pull out the curveball a little bit more. But even if he doesn't, the expected stats for Mitch Spence against lefties makes him really interesting to me, especially in a park that really limits power. So getting down to a $6,300 Mitch Spence, he's the guy that I see as the best value pitcher for today. What do you guys think of Spence? Took in a giant chunk of ice there. What do you guys think of Spence? You guys on my side here? Team Mitch Spence? I like it, man. I like it a lot. The guy you got to dodge here, really. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be that bad. I like this spot for Spence. I hope I have a lot. Don't think we need to pay down for Spence. Jake, you might be right there. You might be right. Jason Gordon wants to know if we like King today. I don't really. I just don't know how to go to King over Schwellenbach or Eovaldi. And if I'm going to go to King, I do kind of feel like it's easier to go to Framber Valdez and pay up a little bit more. Full name is 2 syllables. Love it. I agree. I want an economy of words in my pitchers. I don't want to have to breathe multiple times if I say your name. Like Spencer Schwellenbach? Damn. How am I supposed to roster a guy like that? Oh my God. Jake, I didn't see it either. Shohei Ohtani today is 7,500. That's the same price as Luis Severino, who I expect to have a little bit of ownership. Man, that is a bonkers price on Shohei Ohtani. Deserved, obviously. I mean, he basically every other day is going to be a home run and a stolen base. So you're starting off pretty decent straight from the jump. He's priced to throw 3 innings. Oh, man. Can you imagine if you got his pitching points on days where he was hitting? Like if he were pitching this year and like on a day where he was going to pitch, they just have to make Ohtani like fucking 16K. Oh, man, that shit would be hilarious. Seriously, he'd be like 17K or 16.5 or something if he were a legit starter this year. Honestly, he'd probably be like 15K if you can include both of the points. But yeah, circling back to it, Jason Gordon, I don't really see the path to Michael King. Not that there's anything wrong. Like, he's a 10% guy. I would not be surprised at all to have a little bit of him. I don't see him as a guy that I take a stand on. I think that's going to be difficult to get done. But if I'm going to rank pitchers, it's Ober, Francis, Eovaldi, top 3. See, Ice Through said Cannon. I'm not going to go to Cannon before I go to Mitch Spence. I don't expect Shohei Ohtani to pitch much in the rest of his life. He'll definitely give it another run for sure, but I don't anticipate him being a MLB starter regularly in the future. Honestly, what I think would be really interesting for Ohtani is if you turned him into a ridiculous reliever. And then you just bring him in the 8th to mow somebody down. And then move him back over to, a fielding position when you take him back out. That I think would be very interesting. Your starter goes 6. Then you pull the starter for somebody that can be in for Ohtani, move Ohtani to the mound, let him throw an inning, and then, make another sub after that. All right, projections are up. Ownership is coming. So let me dump the projections in here and see how different what I have is coming in for Stochastic. So the highest projected pitcher on today's slate, on the main slate, is Framber Valdez at 19.2. I obviously have him way lower. I have him at 16.5. So I have a very different outlook on Framber Valdez. Which, honestly, there's not a... what's the Seattle strikeout rate against lefties? That'll let me know how good I feel about this. So team batting stats, active roster versus lefties. Seattle Mariners are 9th in strikeout rate, but they do have a 106 WRC plus, and they have the 3rd highest walk rate. I don't love this spot for Valdez, so I feel a little bit better about where I'm at there. The 2nd highest projected pitcher on today's slate is Bailey Ober, just under 19, 0.2 of a point behind Valdez. So while I am massively higher on Ober and lighter on Valdez, even Ober as the 2nd highest guy is going to be the best value pitcher that you can get to. We have Spence at 12.5. I got a 13.2. He looks like a decent value. We have Spence and Cannon basically the same. Clark Schmidt is actually the guy that we are projecting as the best value pitcher. I don't really disagree with that. I think Schmidt and Brandon Pfaadt and Bowden Francis are all relatively similar, but I'm more on the Francis side and less on those other guys. All righty. Just waiting on ownership. Once this ownership gets posted, I'll get an alert for that. But once ownership is officially up, we can start running some sims. So let me pull the single lineup sim open now. If you like this tool, one, you can sign up for an MLB package clicking the link in the description of this video. Weekly, monthly, all the data, this sim, the full package of sims, generate a contest of 5,000 lineups, simulate them against each other, post-contest stuff as well. Lots going on here. If you're an NFL fan, it is NFL season. It's the most popular DFS sport. If you're playing the NFL and you haven't tested out our stuff yet either, link in the description of the video. It's everything you're going to see that I do for baseball. It's projections and ownership, all of the simulation tools, advanced data like top stacks, all of that is included. So whether you're NFL, whether you're MLB, whether you want them both, you can get them both. You can do that. You can get the full package, Po DGen Stoner. The full package. Love giving the full package, you know? Oh, let me hit the schedule for the rest of the day while I wait on ownership. Because we don't ever stop doing shows. Now, there is no NFL today, so it is a limited day of content, but there is an NFL show today. We don't have games, but we do have content. Laffy and Ben, NFL strategy show coming up immediately after this, 22 minutes from now, 10 a.m. Eastern time on the Stochastic YouTube channel. You get Laffy and Ben talking NFL. And then tonight, Greg and Eric at 6 p.m. for Live Before Lock. They will take you all the way to 7 for this slate. So we're covering everything we can for today, guys. You don't want to miss it. We're still waiting a little bit here on ownership. Takes a little bit longer. But once I get that alert, we're going to let it rip. It's going to be a good time. The czar of the single lineup sim is here to build out the best things possible. Po DGen Stoner, book club tonight. No book club today. My wife is actually in Tennessee. She left Thursday of last week, and she does not get back until this Sunday. So empty house for me, just me and the pup for 10 days. So I'm on vacay, sort of. Love your wife. But yeah, a lot of man shit. A lot of man shit going on. Working with my hands. I'm not actually. Although I have to. Like a third of a tree in my backyard fell down. Can I pull that up? Didn't know it happened. Uh-oh. I didn't know this happened. But my dog was being weird about like going out into the yard. So I went out and immediately I see this on the tree. And then we get that just laying in the yard. And I was like, well, fucking, how did that happen? At first I thought it got struck by lightning because of how dark it was here, but I don't think it did, just from like touching it and smelling it. But yeah, that dumped down in my yard. So I actually have to do a little bit of man work. I got to get the chainsaw out and chop that bad boy down and burn it. Because our yard people want to charge me 250 bones for clearing that out. And I was like, fuck that. Not happening. All right. I just got a message on Slack, which I'm going to assume is Jason Wagner letting me know the main slate's good. So shout out to the team behind the scenes for getting this stuff up. Everybody's got to deal. It's tough in the morning, man. The people are taking their kids places and stuff. So if something happens, you know, because it's the morning, the timing isn't as important. But these guys rushed back from taking care of their kids, fixed all the problems on the back end, and got it up for us here with 20 minutes to spare. So shout out to the men behind the scenes at Stochastic. Ownership is in. Bailey Ober, your highest owned pitcher on the day. Spencer Schwellenbach second, Brandon Pfaadt third, Eovaldi, Valdez, Schmidt, So not totally what I was expecting. Give me 1 second to run my ownership script. Done. All right. That couldn't be more wrong. All right, we'll ignore that for right now because that's pulling out of the wrong column somehow. Oh, I know how it is. Lineups. Kind of want to fix this first. We got time. We got plenty of time. That ownership is incorrect. Now it's correct. All right, let's try this again. Ownership sim. Huzzah. Now we got it. All right, so here's a look at what the ownership looks like for today's slate. Starting off the day. Whoops, wrong table. So we've got 30% ownership coming into Bailey Ober. I'm letting you know right now, I expect to have like 60. And then it's everything that I basically said. Look at this. 15, 15, 18, 19, 17. That whole 8K range in Clark Schmidt. All basically own the same, and that's sort of how I see it. You do get a little bit of love to Valdez, a little bit less to Gilbert, a lot less to Michael King. All of this really shook out like I thought it would. Mitch Spence at 7%. Not all that much. But now, it's time to build some lineups. We don't have a ton of time. We got about 10 minutes for us to do this. The czar is on the scene. Main slate. Large contest. 25% to first. And I want to take a look at the Boston Red Sox. So we're going to start it off. Going to Boston. And we're going to get Yoshida. We're going to get Romy Gonzalez. Tristan Casas. Willier Abreu. Jarren Duran. Wait, I'm missing somebody. Yoshida, Casas, Gonzalez, Duran, Abreu. Oh, I did. Yoshida, Abreu, Duran. Oh, did I not click? Oh, Romy Gonzalez has the MPE, and I didn't put it in there. Let's go second base to start. Now I'm going to fill it out in the Colorado game. And we're going to say, because we need catcher, third, short. So the best catcher, honestly, there isn't an answer. So we're going to go Cardinals. So that's going to be Pages, Arenado, and Mason Wynn. Now we have 8,400 for pitchers on average, which means I can go Ober and Clark Schmidt. 96.69, 96.2. .1% ROI. All right. So we've got our leader in the clubhouse right now at 23%. Just in case, can I change up pitching in any way to make that more interesting? I mean, I got the two best value pitchers in Ober and Schmidt, so I guess no. What if I go off of St. Louis and I go to Colorado? What if instead we go to Hunter Goodman, Ryan McMahon? Oh, then we can't get a shortstop. $4,100 shortstop, best one available is going to be Xander Bogaerts. So in this case, we lost a 1.5 point projection. We cut 15% of ownership. This might look okay. I kind of want to build a better 3-man or 4-man and build around it. Yeah, 20.4. All right. Well, then let's get out of this Boston, or let's leave Boston for 1 second. And let's try to figure out who's the best catcher to get in for a 3-man stack. The best value option is Corey Lee. The highest catcher projection is 7, but we want to be in the 6s. So who's the best 6? Jonah Heim? Ooh, Alejandro Kirk. That's interesting. If I go Kirk, can we go game stack here? Kirk. Just out of curiosity, can we get Vlad and Ernie Clement 88.5 for any pitchers? Ober and Schwellenbach 95, 82, and 90. This one should be better than the first one, but I don't think that we broke free again. Honestly, I'm not having a great... I actually think we might have to go chalk. Yeah, 16%. I'm going to go chalk. We're going to game stack Rockies Cardinals and see what shows up. This is what's going to make the point total explode. So we're going to go to Burleson, Mason Wynn, Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, and I'm going to get Newt Bar. So we're taking on a little bit more ownership here. I need a low-owned catcher with a decent projection. Kirk is probably the answer. But I don't want to go back to Toronto. So let's try Jonah Heim. Marcus Semien. Wyatt Langford. Leave 7,500. And we can't pay down for Spence. That's not ideal. All right. Best pay down pitcher. I can't go to Feltner. I can't go to Spence. So Jonathan Cannon and Ober. 99 and 110. So just, think about it like that. We added 3 fantasy points and added 14% of ownership. I expect this to go up. And I think we can make some good changes. I'm the man. Ice through. I have time. I can get it. 68.5. And I honestly think that this is pretty easily fixable, especially if we just get away from Texas. So let's get a little bit weirder at catcher. Let's see if we can get Ryan Jeffers, Kyle Farmer, and Byron Buxton. Then I can still get Ober. And now I can get Mitch Spence. 99, 98, and 120. Oh, so I took on too much owner. Oh, yeah, Minnesota's getting love. I'm hoping the synergy with Ober helps here. And we still have $800, but that actually could... Okay, so we got the 40. If I just turn Kyle Farmer into the best second baseman I can get with this salary left, we do upgrade by a full fantasy point. Unfortunately, we do take on more ownership. We got back up over 101. Cardinals and Rockies are going to be incredibly important here today. 50 or 60 here? Yeah, 65. All right. It's pretty easy to get to the Cardinals. I think that's very, very clear. Ice through. Let me hit yours before we get out of here. There we go. All right. So We've got Bowden Francis. We've got Jonathan Cannon. We've got Jeffers. We've got Miranda. Let's get St. Louis back here. We get Donovan, Royce Lewis, Gunnar, Burleson, oh, tell me we don't have Buxton. Oh, we did. I was just overlooking him. And then Willie Castro. 94.5 and 88. Nah, this isn't going to be great. We didn't give up enough ownership and we're 2 points below in projection. Maybe the ownership product helps us here. Yeah, 16. Kind of what I expected here. Let's take a look at the Friars. All right, final lineup before we get out of here. San Diego. A whale's vagina. All right, so it's going to be Tatis, Machado, Merrill, Eek, Bogarts, and Arise. Catcher, second, outfield. Been down this road before. Catcher. Langoliers. Geloff. Rooker. 7,200 each pitcher. So we have Oakland, which means Spence is perfect in this spot. And then the best other pitcher we can get to is Clark Schmidt. 90.8, but 63 ownership. It's going to be too low from a projection, and I think that's what San Diego is causing here. Well, actually, San Diego plus Oakland is causing that here. Yeah, 2%. Oakland would have to go. And we just need raw projection that also is good value, which is probably coming from St. Louis and Colorado. So the best catcher in that case is going to be Hunter Goodman. The best second baseman in this game is Brendan Donovan, but I'm going to go to Rogers since we have Colorado. And then the best outfielder in that game from Colorado is going to be Charlie Blackmon. Now, we can still go Spence because we need to save some salary. Leaves us 7,800, which is actually Brian Bayo. 88, 8, and 51. So we have no ownership. I mean, that is single digits across the board. I don't think we're going to be able to bail that out with that shit projection, though. Yeah, no, that's terrible. San Diego's hard. I'm not surprised to see that. But for now, guys, I got to get out of here. Odds Shopper Live coming up at noon. You don't want to miss it. For those of you looking for Pick'em and Sportsbook stuff, that's where I'll hit all of it. But now, NFL Strategy Show coming up next. Ben, Laffy, breaking down the NFL. Enjoy it, everybody. Hit the like button on your way out the door. Have some fun. Peace.